Hello, technology world. This is your host, Gabriel Smith here. And this webcast is going to be about the Ubuntu Edge hoax or scam. Because I think that's what it really was. It was a little scammy. Many of you may know that the Ubuntu Edge phone was supposed to be a superphone that allowed you to dual boot between two operating systems, the Android operating system and the Ubuntu operating system. The idea was that you would use the Android operating system when you were out and about so that you can use it as a phone, but then when you got home or when you got into the office, you can use this phone as a desktop. Now, there's several reasons on why I thought this was sort of a hoax, or a scam, but let me get into that later. First, I just wanted to let you know that Mark Shuttleworth, which is Canonical's founder, and the company Canonical is the company that produces Ubuntu. Mark Shuttleworth has basically announced that the Ubuntu Edge, the superphone that all of us got so excited about, he announced that the Ubuntu Edge is not going to happen. And he went on to say that basically, these aren't his words exactly, I'm just paraphrasing based on the news that I received. But he went on to indicate that basically the Edge phone is dead. The superphone is not going to happen. However, he's going to go ahead and create a phone, a Ubuntu phone that they can bring into the market. Now, to me, that really just doesn't make any sense at all. Simply because you have to look at who you're competing with. And I mentioned this in another video that I created. I think it's called The Future of Ubuntu, or What Does the Future have in Store for Ubuntu. But basically, it doesn't make any sense for them to simply introduce another phone into the market. The market already has too many phones in the market. You have Microsoft, you have Google, you have Apple, and you also have BlackBerry, but God only knows what's going to happen to that. I've done another video about maybe asking the question, is it time to bury BlackBerry? And for the most part, BlackBerry lost $1.6 billion last quarter, and they're being bought by the company Fairfax. So, but if you want to see that video, basically just go to my page and look up the video for that. But, getting back to this Ubuntu phone, why does the market simply doesn't need another phone? Now, I am all about having selection. I'm all about having choice. If the Ubuntu phone can come on the market and survive, so be it. I'm not, and again, I hope this video, this webcast doesn't come off as me being anti-Ubuntu, because I'm not. I'm not anti-Ubuntu. I was really excited when I heard about the Ubuntu Edge, the superphone. I was really excited about that because, number one, I want a superphone, and then number two, I kind of want to see Ubuntu kind of make some type of development, and but with this strategy of simply bringing a Ubuntu phone into the market, I really can't say it would be successful unless the only way I can see that this would make any sense is if the phone would be, the hardware would be priced dramatically lower than anything else on the market. But I just don't see how it makes sense for them to bring a phone into the market and price it the same price that everybody else is pricing theirs. And the market, the cell phone market is just so saturated. People would probably buy a outdated Android phone before they would probably buy a Ubuntu phone and still probably get a really cheaper price on it. So I don't know if any of this makes any sense for Ubuntu. Like I said, I've done another video about what is the future for Ubuntu, and you can look that video up on my page and check it out. But now let's get into the scam part of things. And I think that we all had to know that this was a scam. We had to know this was a scam. Just think about it. You have three giant software companies Microsoft, Apple, and Google. And lately, Google and Apple have been doing some incredible things in the market. Now, you have these three giant companies, and I don't know how much money Microsoft has on hand. I didn't look it up, but I know that Apple has about, what is it, $10 billion in cash? And then Google has about $8 billion in cash. And between the three of the companies, they probably have some of the most brightest software developers, some of the brightest thinkers in technology working for them. And do you actually believe between the three of these companies, no one thought about making a phone that you could dock and use as a computer? Hell, I thought of that. Before they even started talking about the Ubuntu Edge, the Superphone. I think maybe 2 years ago, me and a couple of coworkers were sitting around saying, "Yeah, it's coming. One day you'll be able to dock your phone and use that, and dock your tablet, and that'd be your computer." So everybody's thinking about that. So the question is, why hasn't Microsoft produced a Superphone? Why haven't Apple produced a Superphone? Why hasn't Google produced a Superphone? Why? I believe they haven't produced it simply because they haven't gotten the technology down yet. They haven't really figured it out. It's not so much to say they can't figure it out, but you can probably bet your bottom dollar that they have someone in the secret squirrel lab that's in the basement working on this stuff. They're just not crazy enough to come out and announce it until they actually have the technology down pat. So when Ubuntu came on the market saying like, yeah, we have the specs for the Superphones, it's going to have 16 gigabytes of memory, 60 gigabytes of disk storage, so on and so forth. I don't even know if those were the actual specs. I think it was like maybe 1 gig of memory or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it was enough to allow you to boot a phone on and use it as a desktop. So you have to believe that when Ubuntu came out and announced that they were going to do this, Microsoft, Google, and Apple had to be sitting there scratching their heads saying, "What the freak? Are you serious? How did they do this? How did they do this?" And then they probably came to their senses and just realized it was a scam. I mean, so that's one tell that it was probably a little scammy, simply because there's other companies that could have done it and were more likely to do it. Now, I'm not saying that just because big companies didn't do a thing doesn't mean a small company or one person can do it. No, I mean, the world is built, at least North America is built on innovation, and you should expect little anomalies like this to happen on a regular basis. I guess it wouldn't be an anomaly if it happened on a regular basis, but you can expect the little guy to come out with something great. That's one of the things that makes North America a really great country, well, the world for that matter. So, but to me, it just didn't make sense because I know it's something that they have to be working on, and then for Ubuntu to come out and say, "Okay, we got it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make it." I just thought it was a load of crap. Think about it. They didn't show you any actual specs in terms of how it's going to be done. They didn't show you any architectural plans or anything like that. I don't know if they would, but they didn't show you any of that. They just kind of showed you some smoke and mirrors. They probably made a plastic copy of this sleek looking phone and just put it out there for everybody to see it, and everybody bit. Everybody bit on it because we all want this Superphone that's probably at least 2 years away from us. We all want it. Another sign that this was a scam is that if you look at the specs, and I know I commented about the specs earlier, but I do remember kind of taking a look at the specs just seem to kind of be over the top for a phone. The specs seem to be over the top. I mean, it superseded anything that's on the market today. And how do you do that? And not only that, I don't think that they actually, I can't say this isn't true, but I don't think they announce any manufacturers who's going to produce this hardware to go into their phone. I didn't hear any when I read the stories about the superphones. And like I said, forgive me because I didn't read them all, but I don't know that they announced a manufacturer that's going to produce this for them. So the reason they probably didn't announce it because no manufacturer is probably crazy enough to say they can squeeze all that stuff into something that's not going to look like a brick, you know. So the way I could actually see a superphone happening tomorrow or in 2014 is that it's going to be the size of a brick, and they know nobody wants that. So I mean, I don't know. That's probably one of the indications that it's a scam, that it was scamming. The other indication that it was probably scammy is that they originally tried. People suspect that they originally tried to kick this project on the Kickstarter platform, which is basically another way that you raise money. And it's been rumored that Kickstarter rejected them, and they went to Indigo and announced that they needed $32 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And I would think that, number one, if you are launching a project like that and you're asking for people to give you money, you would at least show them some hardware specifications. And they didn't show any of that. So the first reason I think it was a scam is because of the people who are capable of doing it and who are already working on it, that being Microsoft, Apple, and Google. They haven't announced anything like that. And then the other reason I think it's a scam is because they didn't really show you any actual specs on how it was possible to. They didn't even give you a story. They didn't even give you a story. At least when Intel comes out and they're talking about a new processor, they're going to at least give you a peek at why this technology is going to work. And Android didn't do that. They didn't tell you about any type of special processor developments that's going to allow them to do this. They didn't talking about any type of developments in RAM or solid state drives is going to allow them to cram all that power into a small phone. They didn't talk about that. They just gave you hype, and that's all it was. And and then perhaps the last indication that this was a hoax or a scam, because that's really what it was the fact that the price, and I think the price was $695. Now think about it. You have a phone that nobody else have, and this phone is going to allow you to be productive, and it's going to allow you to save money, because now you don't need a desktop, you don't need a laptop anymore, and you're only going to price that phone at the same price that everybody else is pricing theirs, which is $695. You basically have a $1,500 product. The reason you have a $1,500 product because people are going to pay at least $700 for a phone, and then those who need to get work done, they're at least going to pay another $400 or $500, probably $1,000 for a laptop or desktop. And corporations would probably, there's no limit to the amount of money corporations would spend to have this type of technology, to have their employees, to issue their employees phones instead of a laptop or a desktop. Come on. And you're pricing it at $695? That has scam written all over it. Scam written all over it. So it was nonsense. It was nonsense. So now I guess now that he's got the $12 million, he's come out and he's saying that Mark Shuttleworth is saying that we're not going to produce the Ubuntu Edge. It's not possible. Yeah, it wasn't possible with $32 million, to be honest with you. It wasn't. At least it wasn't possible for them because they just don't have. I'm not gonna go too far and kind of speculate and say what they don't have. But I would say an achievement like that is something that I would expect to see from a Microsoft, a Google, an Apple, a Samsung, an Intel, companies like that. I'm not saying that Ubuntu couldn't do it. All the information they were putting out there, it just didn't sound right. And I think everybody fell for it because we all, especially us as techies, we all fell for it because we want a superphone. I'm just being real. So yeah, so now he's saying it's not going to happen. And instead, we're just going to bring a phone. And to me, putting another phone on the market without anything special, you are basically setting yourself up for the slaughter, because there's no what's going to make a iPad and I'm sorry, a iPhone user go to Ubuntu. What's going to make them go to Ubuntu? And to make matters worse, Ubuntu, from my understanding, isn't compatible with Apple. What's going to make an Android user go to Ubuntu? The applications aren't compatible. What's going to make them do that? So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think even Firefox announced that they already have a phone on the market. So there's just too many players on the market. Now, I would have liked Ubuntu to maybe work with BlackBerry. Many of you know that BlackBerry has been brought out by Fairfax, or is going to be brought out by Fairfax. I did a video about that, asking whether or not it's time to bury BlackBerry. I think Ubuntu and BlackBerry probably could have had a nice partnership, but at the end of the day, you need to maybe take some market share from either Apple or Google, or at least find some way, not necessarily to take it, but to kind of ride or piggyback off of it. And like I say, the Ubuntu phone, another phone in the market, it's not really going to help Ubuntu. I don't know what the future is for Ubuntu, and I actually did a video about that. You can go to my YouTube page and find that webcast, What's the Future for Ubuntu? But now, to me, it just seems the things a little bit more dire. And like I said, this is not a anti-Ubuntu video. I love technology. I love to see choices in the operating system world. And although I'm not a huge fan of Ubuntu, I do plan to probably make some more videos on it and kind of experiment with it and see what you can do. I like the fact that it's probably the most popular free operating system besides something like Fedora or and things of that nature. So I mean, I like the fact that there are those choices out there. I personally would have tried to do something else instead of trying to produce a phone, because they knew they weren't going to be like, if they realistically could have made the Superphone, then I would have went for it. But I don't think I think even they knew no Superphone was coming. They knew that. So I don't know. Like I said, this is not an anti-Ubuntu video, but you have to really ask what the future is for Ubuntu. If I was a shareholder, or if I had some type of decision-making power on where to take Ubuntu, I would try to expand the desktop market a little bit more, in the sense that you could probably sell yourself. You could probably invade the small business owner market. Many of them would not want to pay for a Microsoft license and things of that nature. And I think Microsoft is also in a little trouble, and they're kind of holding on to that market. But I think the corporate desktop environment, there may be a little possibility for Ubuntu, and that's where I would take it. And at that point, all they want is for those corporations just to use their stuff for free at that point. And maybe offer services, and then down the line they could probably charge like maybe a small fee for the desktop operating system, like maybe $15 or something like that. I would try to play around with ideas like that, but another phone in the market, I just think that idea is DOA. So you know what? That's it for this webcast. Please subscribe to my channel. I love to have conversations with folks. So if you object to this video, leave a comment below and let me know why. If you like the video, definitely subscribe and leave a comment below still. And if you have any specific questions for me about Linux, Unix, Solaris, operating systems and things of that nature, I'm mostly a Red Hat guy. So Fedora and Red Hat and Solaris is kind of in my realm, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't play around with anything that you throw at me. Send me an email, busy386@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.